While since I've gone live, but I thought today it's been a little chilly here in Florida and I was really in the mood for some soup, and I haven't used my clam chowder recipe in quite a while, so I thought I'm going to share my clam chowder recipe. It's been on the website forever, but I thought you might like to see it, and I'm going to figure out what's going on with my hair over here. Not sure what that is. Thought I was camera ready. So anyway, pull up my sleeves and let's get started. The first thing that I did, just in the essence of saving some time, was I rendered some bacon. This is completely nitrate free. It's got no sugar. It's uncured. I get it at Aldi. You can buy uncured, no sugar bacon pretty much anywhere. And again, no preservatives. So I just like something that's a little cleaner for all of my recipes, and that's what this is. So I rendered the bacon, you can see there. And now I'm just going to scoop it out. Just gonna use my wooden spoon to scoop it out, but I'm also gonna reserve all of that nice rendered bacon fat. And then to the bacon fat, I'm gonna add some ghee. Again, ghee is the only dairy item that we use when we're dairy and gluten-free, but I make my own ghee and I save it in these little jars, and it works out really well. So to the rendered bacon fat, I'm gonna add a couple tablespoons of ghee. And again, this recipe is on the website, livingdeliciousnutrish.com. This jar is almost empty, so let's just finish it off. Nothing wrong with a little extra butter flavor. Put that in the sink real quick. And if you have any questions about the recipe along the way or anything like that, I have my iPad over here off camera, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. It's kind of fun being back live again after a while. Prepared some of the vegetables. I think you can see from where I am. I'll move a few things out of the way so you can see how I slice this onion. I'm going to add onion and celery to this next, and I thought you might like to see the proper way to chop an onion. So I already peeled it. I already cut it in half. First, you'll take the top off where the green grows out of, and then you'll remove the root end. But when you remove the root end, try and keep a little bit of that connective tissue in the back. And then cut it in half. You always want to work on flat side down. And we're going to cut this to about a ½ inch, not quite a ½ inch. And it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but the reason I like it to be pretty consistent sizes is so they cook the same. Little tiny pieces tend to burn, and big pieces are going to never cook. So if you can get comfortable with doing more consistent slicing, it's just going to improve every recipe you make. So what I've done so far is I've just sliced through this horizontally. I'm holding my knife parallel to the cutting surface, and I'm not going all the way through. See, I'm leaving it just hinged a little bit back here. And I'm making slices that are the size that I want my finished onion pieces to be. And out of this, I can probably get about 3 slices. Now I'm going to turn the onion, and I'm going with the grain. And again, not going all the way through, still holding it together in the back here. That really helps keep all the pieces in one place. And the same size slices as I did going horizontally. Now I'm going to turn it and go crosswise. This is the important thing that you need to know anytime you're cutting anything. Your thumb goes into the back, your fingers go on the top with your fingertips tucked under, and your knuckles forward. You're using your knuckles as a guide for your blade. So then you just slice. And as you move your knuckles back, you know exactly how big a slice you want to make. And that's all there is to cutting an onion. And as you can see, all of the pieces are just the right size. Just gonna go ahead and throw those in. And yes, this little bit that had everything hinged together in the back, you can just go back through that with a knife. Cut that up too. So this is about an onion and a half. And all of the exact measurements are gonna be on the website on the recipe. Another thing I always like to mention, anyone who's seen me do lives before or watched any of my videos on YouTube knows, a sharp knife is a safe knife. Never try and do anything with a dull knife. You think a dull knife, you won't cut yourself, but you'll actually put more force into a dull knife just trying to get through, especially a hard vegetable like a carrot or a potato, and you'll do some serious damage. So you don't want to see any accidents in the kitchen. Now I have about 2 ribs of celery, same size dice as the onion, and I'm going to add that in. We're just going to saute these in that rendered bacon fat and ghee until it gets nice and soft and the onions are translucent. We really aren't going for any color on this at this point. We just want it soft. And while that's doing that, I also want to talk to you about this one unique vegetable that I'm using. Most people that cook paleo or do some alternative things already know about Hannah sweet potatoes. This is one of my favorite potatoes. One, it's a sweet potato, so it's not a nightshade. And 2, it looks and tastes almost exactly like a regular white potato. It does have a little sweetness to it, but you can do some things with your recipe to counter that so you don't have a lot of sweetness. One of my favorite vegetables, sometimes tough to find, but definitely look for these. They're not always this big, but I use them for everything. I make mashed potatoes, I make French fries. And let's see, Healthy Lifestyles wants to know what's the best way to learn. Check out my YouTube videos. I have lots of cooking YouTube videos. I have chef hacks. I was a pastry chef for 20 years, and after an autoimmune diagnosis, I realized that food truly is medicine, and changing my diet to paleo really has helped with my symptoms and removed a lot of the food triggers that I had. I started with AIP, which is autoimmune protocol. I've been able to incorporate a few things back into my diet, but I am mostly dairy and gluten, grain-free, and a lot of legumes. I'm also out. Some of the things that I love, they just don't love me back. So we're just not gonna eat those. Okay, so we've talked about the bacon, we've talked about the celery and onion, proper way to cut an onion. Another thing that I like to use as a thickening agent is tapioca starch. You can buy this in the grocery store. They actually have it at almost every grocery store these days. It's going to be your cornstarch or thickener replacement. Corn is a grain. I don't eat grain, so I'm using the tapioca starch. Arrowroot would also be a great replacement for anything that has cornstarch in it. These are just about there. I want to show you how the celery has taken on a nice bright color, and the onions are just kind of a creamy, almost translucent. If you held it up, you could see through it. And the reason I'm cooking on my induction burner today and not over on the stove is because I needed a lot of space for these ingredients. Not every recipe has this many ingredients, but this one comes together in one pot. I cooked the bacon in this pot. I just cut it up into little small pieces, or lardons as we say in French. I'm not French, but I know some kitchen French. And now that the onions and celery are ready, I'm just going to sprinkle this tapioca starch over all of it and quickly stir it around to coat. And now you can see it's kind of made a paste, and all the little dry spots are pretty much gone. And then in the essence of time also, so you didn't have to sit here and watch me wait for potatoes to boil, I par cooked the potatoes. So I diced the Hannah sweet potato about 4 cups worth into the same size dice as the onion and celery, and I just par cooked it in some water with some salt, and now I'm gonna add it in. For the regular recipe, you would just throw the raw potatoes in at this point and let everything cook together. and some of that tapioca is sticking to the bottom of the pan, so we're gonna deglaze the pan. And I just have one thing here in the oven that's a surprise at the end that I'm gonna check on real quick. Give that 5 more minutes, and then you'll get to see what that is. So deglazing the pan is when you have those nice brown bits at the bottom of the pan that look like they're almost burned, but they're not. They're full of flavor. We've developed a few of those as we cook the onions and garlic. So now, in order to deglaze the pan, I'm adding 2 cups of seafood stock. And you get that sizzle right away. And as soon as you start pushing everything around, all those nice bits will come up from the bottom of the pan. They add flavor, they add some nice substance, giving the broth some thickness. That's why I like to cook with a wooden spoon too. It's almost an extension of my arm, and I can feel the bottom of the pan as if I had my actual hand in there, which I would not do since it's a little hot. This is the seafood stock that I'm using. It's called Imagine, and the ingredients are very simple. Fish stock, which is filtered water, natural dried codfish, organic vegetable, organic carrot, celery, onion, sea salt, and a little tomato. That's it. It might have some shellfish in it too. Read the labels. Look for the cleanest things you can find. You don't want fillers. You certainly don't want added sugar. It does nothing for you. It certainly doesn't help the flavor. And there's no need for any of those things. So really try and read the backs of the packages, not just the fronts. And then to this, I'm going to add 1 can of coconut milk. This is an organic, full-fat coconut milk. This is what gives us that nice, dreamy, creamy texture. And I'm just stirring all of this together so you can see how it's starting to come together. I'll bring this up to a boil. I'll let it simmer a little bit. If you're doing this at home and you haven't par cooked the potatoes, you're gonna follow the recipe instructions. You're just gonna let this go until the potatoes are tender, fork tender, that's it. And then everything else is pretty much ready to go. Thank you, I hope it's yummy looking, and I hope you try this recipe. This is one of the first recipes I developed when I first went paleo. My husband is a big clam chowder fan, and I thought there has to be a way to make clam chowder that would be with ingredients that I can tolerate and still give him the flavors and textures that he loves every time he would order a nice clam chowder. Just gonna boost the temperature up a little bit on this. And now we're gonna add some seasoning. I have some dried thyme, about 1.5 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons, whatever suits you. And some Old Bay. I would do about 1 tablespoon or 2 of this. I'm just gonna sprinkle it in, just eyeball it. And some salt and pepper. Fresh ground pepper, always. And pink Himalayan sea salt. This is the cleanest sea salt you can buy. Buy what you can afford, but the right kind of salt makes all the difference. And you know, if you're an East Coast person, when you're cooking something with seafood, you have to add Old Bay. Just gonna give this a quick taste. See how it's coming along. The vegetables need to go just a little bit longer. But we're really close, and it's gonna be delicious. So one of the favorite things for me to serve when I'm making any kind of soup or chowder is a cornbread. The recipe's on the website. I'm not showing you how to make it today, but that's what I have in the oven. It's actually an almond flour base with some lemon zest, and honey. And because the texture of the almond flour is very similar to cornmeal, this cornbread, non-cornbread, is just as good as anything you would get with actual corn in it. So that's in the oven. You'll see even the color looks like cornbread. So that's just another fun recipe, and it's delicious to serve together. Oh, and there's my timer. So let's see how it looks. I still do the skewer trick. It smells delicious, and I can tell you I know it's done because it's come away from the sides of the pan. And that's always something to look for when you're baking a cake. You can see how it's just started to separate from the sides of the pan a bit. That's how you know it's done. And look how nice and thick this is. I'm gonna let it cool a little bit and hopefully be able to cut a piece so you can see it on the inside before we're finished here today. So while we're waiting for the soup to come up to temperature, I wanted to talk to you about my brand new program. It's a program that I have created. It's to jumpstart you on your goals to health. It's an elimination protocol. It's only 21 days. You eliminate the most problematic foods from your diet for 21 days, and then you systematically bring them back in one at a time to see where you might have triggers or intolerances. And then with that information, we can move forward with more coaching, or you can just kind of take the ball and run with it, whatever you prefer. But I'm actually excited to say that I'm going to start a group, a test group, which you can be a part of at a special price on Monday, the 24th. So that would give you 21 days to do the program and just enough time to do the reintroduction before Thanksgiving. It's a great time to do a reset. Hey, I'm back. It's a great time to do a reset right before the holidays. It's a great way to find out if you have any significant issues with food that maybe you just haven't discovered in the there might be a kind of get to the bottom of it. Even if you do food sensitivity testing, which I also recommend, 9 times out of 10, your practitioner is going to tell you to do an elimination diet along with it to see how you tolerate the foods that came back sensitive. So why not just save the money? It's the least expensive thing you can do and the most effective. So you can go on my website, which is livingdeliciousnutrish.com, and look for the Paleo Protocol, which is the name of the new program. I was going to launch it in January, and I decided, you know what? I'm too excited to not get a little bit of feedback on it, see what everybody thinks, get a group together. Would love to have everyone's opinion. I'm doing it at a special introductory price, so I hope you go on and check it out. Also, if you're interested in a discovery call, I can give you a discount code for a discovery call, which would be half price, $25 instead of $49. And if you decide to go ahead with any of my programs, you would get that $25 that you paid put towards the program of your choice. So a lot of fun things that make it really accessible for you to try. Why wouldn't you try? I hope you do. So this is boiling. The vegetables are tender. And I only have one important thing left to add. And that's the clams. I have 3 cans of chopped sea clams. They're really clean, great brand. They don't use any artificial ingredients. The cans are safe packaging. And I just want to make sure that these are warmed through. I do like the chopped clams because I like the texture of them a little better in this than whole clams, but use what you like. That's the beautiful thing about recipes. If there's things that you like to make them a little different, then you may do that. This looks so good. Really happy with it. I'm gonna turn this off and I'm gonna grab my ladle so I can bowl it up for you. I love a nice, wide, shallow dish. It helps the soup cool off a little faster and makes it a little more palatable so you're not burning yourself when you try and eat it. And just look at how thick and chunky and delicious this is. And let's not forget to top it with some of this yummy bacon. See, we didn't just render the bacon for the fat. We're gonna eat the bacon too, and it gives the soup a lovely, smoky, intense flavor that goes along with the clams. What do you think? The brand for the clams, good question. The brand for the clams is Bar Harbor Chopped Sea Clams. I'll show you the can. It's probably upside down or backwards or whatever, since this is like a mirror. But I do like this one, and I get it at Whole Foods. I think most grocers also carry it. I do like to shop at Whole Foods, but I also like to find things in other stores that are a little more accessible. So last but not least, let me get this out of the way and I'll show you what that cornbread looks like. Hopefully it's not too hot to cut. And this is an 8x8 pan. I also will do it in a 9x9 pan if I think maybe I'd like it a little thinner, or I'm trying to get more portions out of it. You can double the recipe and put it into a like a quarter sheet or a half sheet pan if you just want long and thin. When we baked professionally, we always did cornbread in giant sheet pans, so it wasn't thick because the sides are only maybe 3/4 of an inch on a pan like that, but it got a lot of portions out. I see Diane Robinson is on. Hi, Diane. I miss seeing you. I hope Paris was amazing. It is still a little hot, and I do have some parchment paper under here. See if this fork will work as a spatula. There we go. There's the cornbread and there's the chowder. Now, who wouldn't want to come over for dinner, right? Are you coming? Are you going to come over? Are you going to make this yourself? I hope you look for these recipes. I'm going to try and get back